Hello again, happy Wednesday. Here's a look up in the big country, already seeing the cloud cover starting to develop pretty thick across the area. Now, we did have an Arctic cold front that stalled in the area today, which is why we're seeing some of those cooler temperatures further north and east and even warmer further south and west. That warm spot right now, Junction, holding on at 87 degrees. They're the only place really sitting in the 80s right now. Everybody else either in the 60s or the 70s, 65 in San Angelo, 63 up in Abilene, and then a little further west is Midland and those lower 70s at 73. Overnight, if you're in a place that doesn't have a whole lot of cloud cover, you're going to see that cloud cover thicken overnight. Temperatures once again generally getting in the 50s, but depending on your location will determine whether it's the upper 50s, lower 50s, or even mid 50s. But coming up over the next 24 hours, we have a lot going on to talk about. For starters, looking at a risk for severe weather tomorrow afternoon. If you're anywhere east of this Colorado City to Ozona line, you're going to be in that level 1 risk, and then east of that Abilene to Junction line in that level 2 risk. The main impacts we're going to be looking at are damaging wind gusts and large hail, but we cannot rule out the possibility of an isolated tornado, especially in this yellow, or even when you get into those orange and red regions, which when you get into the orange and red, they're looking at more than a few isolated tornadoes, looking more widespread, long-lived tornadoes. But here in our neck of the woods, tornado threat is not much of a concern. We're really going to be tracking the wind and the hail. So here's a look at the setup with that. Starting out tomorrow morning, here's a look at that Arctic front that we saw stall in the area today. Further west is that Pacific front that's going to be offering this action over the next several hours. That's going to start to impact those westernmost counties by around lunchtime, and between lunchtime and 6 p.m. is when we're going to see that move east. And as you see that line of storms following that front, that's what is going to give us that severe weather threat on Thursday. As that moves further east, we'll see another round of precipitation up in the big country in those overnight hours into Friday, but kicking off Friday morning, all of us looking to be under sunny skies with a brief moment of cooler temperatures. Now, even beyond the rain chance, we're looking at a red flag warning from noon to 8 p.m. for most of the area. Pretty much everybody west of this Abilene to Brady line going to be included in that. And then in those locations not included in that, still under a wind advisory. We're expecting wind gusts at that time around 50 miles per hour and relative humidity values getting in the teens. So even with the chance for rain tomorrow, as dry as the air is, anything that does fall is going to evaporate really quickly. And the main concern are going to be these gusty winds and what problems those could pose to us. But we'll end out the week in the 60s, getting back to the 70s as early as this weekend, hitting the 80s by the start of next week before our next weather maker looks to come around the middle part of next week to bring another round of rain chances. Back to you, Esmeralda.